Welcome to episode 76 of The Wise Guys here on the Wise Guys YouTube channel on June the 29th, 2024, our last show of June. Michael, do you realize that Monday will officially be the halfway point of 2024?
It doesn't even compute. It just doesn't.
And how are you down there? Because I actually hear you guys are getting some really nasty weather this week.
We're waiting for it. Boards are ready to go up. No, I'm just kidding. No, it's gonna rain like hell, but it's been hotter in the fires of hell too. But I think the air conditioner's finally fixed. But then I got the power bill that's due next month, and I'm ready to choke someone.
Choke slam?
No, choke out. And I don't mean like Ronda Rousey in the octagon style. I mean literally choke someone out. But James, I have to say this. 76, it's just every time we put a number up there and we see it, it's kind of like, holy crap.
You know, I mean, we're gonna be into the 80s in August, and then comes the climb towards the magical centennial, which we're trying to figure out for the Wisies.
Did you ever think we would get here when I dragged you kicking and screaming onto Big Rican that time?
Yeah, but I just actually figured it was going to be 4, 5, 6 years coming on, like doing it once a month instead of once a week, you know?
Well, this is more fun, to be honest with you. But as per always,
it's your enjoyment for the week, and as we talked about off the air, this is the first thing I've done today.
Yes, it is. I've had a very packed day, but that's kind of how my weekends go. Plus, it's end of the month at my job and whatnot. But Jim, as has been the last few weeks, we got a loaded show. We've got a full hat trick. We got a full blast. So why do you say we get to it, my friend?
It's the three biggest topics in the world of sports from the last week. Get ready for the Wise Guys hat trick.
And in honor of our opening segment,
history in South Beach. As the Florida Panthers win their first Stanley Cup, their first title, their 30th season this year. A year after, honestly, I think we all believe that if they had been healthy, they would have taken Jack fucking Eichel and the Las Vegas Golden Knights and beaten the piss out of them. But the other part of that down there is a piece we'll get to in a few minutes, and that is for only the fourth time in NHL history. Sixth time
in
NHL history.
Only the second time in history it's ever been won by a non-goaltender.
Yeah, and then it's on a team that did not win the Stanley Cup. The Conn Smythe Trophy goes to Connor McDavid. But let's start first with the champs, who, Jim, a week ago we were wondering if this was going to be the biggest choke job in the history of sports.
And there was a part of us that actually kind of thought that, you know, could it have actually been as close as it was? Because it wasn't that, you know, Edmonton didn't have their opportunities, although you saw that McDavid and Draisaitl were largely kept in check, but you definitely saw some of the other guys like a Zach Hyman, like a Bouchard. You definitely saw some of the other guys get their chances. Corey Perry had a couple of good scoring chances. And each time that that McDavid and Draisaitl were there were 2-3 guys on them. They got a couple of shots late, but it was just something that they peppered Bobrovsky so much. The one thing that I really noticed, and I'm not sure if you saw the game, but in the final 5 minutes, it kind of reminded me of the Miracle on Ice, not for the historic aspect, but Chris Knobloch, the head coach of the Edmonton Oilers, didn't know what to do. He didn't know whether to leave Stuart Skinner in. He didn't know whether to pull him. He just didn't know what to do.
No, he didn't. And that's an apt comparison. With Edmonton, of course, playing the part of the Soviet Union and Bobrovsky being, in essence, Jim Craig.
Yeah.
I will say this. Here is what impressed me about Florida in this series. You want to talk about having to get up off the fucking mat. After, I mean, let's be honest. Like you said in last week's show, 11-4 the first 3 games, and then utter domination by the Edmonton Oilers in games 4, 5, and 6. So I understand game 7 was in their barn. I understand, excuse me, that's why you have the best record to get game 7 in your barn. But, you know, Edmonton had smoked them in game 5 in their barn. I didn't think Florida was going to get up off the deck. I honestly didn't. Would it have been cool for us in the quote unquote free independent media to talk about a choke job like this? Absolutely would have been. But I was more looking at the momentum factor. Is how do you get off the deck? And I'll tell you what, their coach, what's the coach's name again? It's escaping me. Paul Maurice.
And we're going
What
to talk
a phenomenal job.
We're going to talk about him.
What a phenomenal job. I will say this, my 2 favorite moments were Maurice getting the cup during the interview, and then Matty Tkachuk giving Big Walt the cup as well. I thought that was pretty cool.
And
his
also
dad.
Big Walt in the locker room getting the beer bath.
I did not see the beer bath. That's wonderful. And hold on. It's going tonight. My head itches. You know what it is? I shaved yesterday, and first day after it starts to come in. Usually I shave Thursday, but yeah, that was yesterday. Anyway, forgive me for the glare. So I was, you know, I'm happy for a team to get its first title. I would have been happy for Canada to get their first cup in 30 years. I did not have a horse in the race, so I was kind of hoping for something cool to happen. But either way, this was going to be something cool to happen.
The scoring opens where Florida kills off a penalty, and then a shot that's going 3 feet wide. Carter Verhaeghe with an excellent tip redirects it. It's obviously a shot that they were looking for a deflection. Reaches the stick out, taps it, and it goes 5-hole right through Stuart Skinner. We got 1-0 Florida after 1. And then, well, actually, not even 1-0 after 1. It's 2 minutes and 17 seconds later. Linus Janmark on a breakaway, and at that point, he puts it past Sergei Bobrovsky, and we're tied at 1. And Edmonton was 5 for 5 on breakaway attempts in games 4 through 7. That's insane. Giving up 5 breakaway opportunities in 4 games is impressive, but letting one in on all 5 of them, and then Sam Reinhart with essentially the golden goal at 15:11 of the second period. Sam Reinhart had 57 goals this season, which was second in the NHL to Austin Matthews, who scored 69. Leave your jokes at the door.
Nice.
The Florida Panthers, the past 2 seasons with their run to the Stanley Cup finals, both years, have played 210 games combined with the regular season and the playoffs. Sam Reinhart played in all 210 games.
He's like the only one because that team was beating the snot.
And Sam Reinhart's a free agent right now.
Florida's got to re-sign him.
They've got to, but Florida's got a lot of guys that they've got to go out and re-sign. They could honestly care less that because they got their cup, they went all in. They got to the finals. They raised one banner last year. They're going to raise the one that matters in November.
Yeah, and that's a hell of a night. I mean, we were talking about before, this October will be 8 years post watching our own banner raising that were invested in Cleveland. You have seen one since then with the St. Louis Blues. I have not seen dick since then. So I want to ask you this. Now let's talk about what this means for Florida moving forward. They're not going to Wayne Huizenga this and tear it down, are they? Or are they? I mean, you can't get rid of Matty Tkachuk. You can't. I mean, Verhaeghe is got to stay. I mean, these are two keystone pieces for a franchise.
Well, we're going to definitely see some changeover. You've got and keep this also in mind. If you go back to the Tampa Bay Lightning at the start of the decade, this is 3 times in 5 years this decade that the Stanley Cup has been won by a team in the state of Florida.
You know, I was thinking about that. And when's the last time one of the original 6 won a cup?
Chicago in 2013, I want to say. The Rangers have not won since 94. The Canadiens since 93. Boston's last cup was 2011. Detroit has not won the cup since
the 90s.
No, so Detroit, I want to say won in 2007, 2008. Toronto has not won since 47.
So it's Chicago.
Yeah, Chicago is the most recent, and it's definitely been within the last 10 years.
So basically what we're talking about is not only has Canada not won a cup in 30 years, you're talking it's been over a decade for one of the original 6 to win a cup. So I like the way the NHL has progressed with their expansion teams outside of course, the desert. So yeah, I'm interested to see what Florida does going into the offseason. But I will say this, pivoting to the second part of that, I am interested to see what Edmonton does going into the offseason. This is a team that just missed. They had the best player on the ice every night. Let me go back. They had the best player in the playoffs. The best player on the ice. Oh, here we go. That's a really vulgar term for us. Go Avs. What the fuck?
Yeah, go Avs. Go away.
Away. That's like the Blue Jackets. Goodbye. So hi, John.
Although if you build it, if you're looking to build a team, there's 3 players that you basically put around Austin Matthews, Connor McDavid, Cale Makar.
Yeah.
You build a blue line around Cale Makar.
That's not a bad idea. So let's talk about Edmonton real quick going into the offseason. Then I want to talk about and then I want to get your opinion on something. You have the Conn Smythe winner. The Hart Trophy is the MVP, right?
Correct, which was won by Nathan McKinnon from Colorado just a couple of nights ago, who put up 142 points this season.
Wow. Is Edmonton a goaltender away from winning this thing? Not that the principle was terrible, but do you think that if they got somebody like a Bobrovsky of that talent level, they can win a cup?
I don't know, because you've seen you need that wall to backstop you to a cup, unless you're going out and blowing teams out. Now, Bobrovsky was the best goaltender in the playoffs. There's no doubt about that. Go back to last year.
Agreed.
Vegas was not blowing the world away in net. Go back the year before that. Colorado was not blowing people away in net. They were just outscoring everybody. When the Blues won, Jordan Binnington, yes, was a wall. When Washington won, I'm trying to think of his name. Brayton Holtby was a wall. When I honestly feel, and this is not me hating on Chicago as much as I do, but I think of the Blackhawks dynasty from the previous decade. Um, I think yes, Corey Crawford was deserving of one of those three cups, but they won those other two in spite of him, not because of him. Um,
Okay.
when Pittsburgh won their three cups the previous decade, Marc-Andre Fleury was worthy of being the guy in net, even though they had two of the best players in the world at the time.
I was asking that question because it just seems alien to me that Canada has not won a Stanley Cup since Gary Bettman took over the NHL. I got nothing. I mean, I honestly think that that's what Edmonton needs to do. They either need to go out and get a good goaltender in free agency, or we just had the draft. If maybe they've got one they can develop. But I honestly think if Skinner was up to the challenge of Bobrovsky in the first three games, I honestly feel Edmonton would have won that series. They had the better offensive weapons.
See, I also don't feel that he played bad at all in Game 7. The tip in by Verhaeghe, the opening goal, it doesn't matter who the goaltender is. That puck is not getting stopped for something going 3 feet wide and then getting deflected and going 5-hole.
No, I agree with you on that goal. And I actually, when I watched the replay, I was first of all shocked he was that close to a high stick, and it didn't get called. But again, it's Game 7.
Remember when the puck when the stick makes contact, it's got to be above the crossbar.
Okay, that's right. That's right. But I will say this: Game 7, notwithstanding, he did have issues in 1 through 3.
Yes.
So that's what I'm saying.
But here's also the thing: he did have issues in 1, 2, and 3, but he didn't get smoked. The 3-0 win in Game 1. That third
two empty netters.
That third goal was an empty net. The 5-3 loss in Game 3, the fifth goal was an empty net goal.
Well, the second and third goal were empty net goals in Game 1.
Yes,
he only lost that game 1-0.
Yes,
I'm thinking more of Game 2. And yes, Game 4, he still let in 4. So it's like, you got somebody in there who only lets in 2. We're talking about that not even get to Game 7. So I think they're a goaltender away, personally. Their defense has been pretty good. They penalty killed really well. They scored the most shorthanded goals, if I remember correctly.
Yes.
In the playoffs, and they have the best player in the world. Hart Trophy notwithstanding, Connor McDavid is the best player in the world. You win the Conn Smythe as the guy who played on a team who didn't win. That's saying something.
And can we just put something to rest about the flack that people were giving him for not coming out and accepting the award? He's the captain of that team. He's going to go back and support his players. Do you really want the most prestigious player in the playoffs winning the MVP in a losing effort, coming out there and being sad bastard?
Well, did you see what Dangle? Did I send you what Dangle said about it? Okay, that picture of JSG was horrific.
Yes,
that was terrible. He had no business. Now, if they had lost it in Edmonton, I would have, and it was me, I would have come out. Those are my fans. I won a prestigious award. My fans should be allowed to see me have it. They won it in Florida. Stay in the locker room. Don't come out. It's not your time. It will be his time. He will win a cup. I have no fear of that.
And you also have to keep in mind that there's no way he's even going to be laying a finger on that thing the entire summer. And then when it's presented on opening night, in Canadian Tire, or not Canadian Tire Center, whatever it's not Rexall Place anymore, Scotiabank Place. When they present it in Scotiabank, he's not going to touch it. He's not going to pose with it. He might pose with it, but he's going to be about as far away from that thing as he can when that shutter snaps.
Well, do you think he's going to run away from it like PK ran away from Mess?
See, there's a difference, and I mean, what's your take on Big Wall touching the cup, even though he never won it?
That wasn't about a player. That was about a father and son. That was about Matty giving his dad the trophy because it was his dad, not because Big Walt played in the NHL. It would almost be like, let's say father, son. All right. Todd Stottlemyre was on the Diamondbacks in 2001. If he had given the trophy, well, that's a bad example because Mel was the pitching coach of the Yankees. Let me try something different. Vladdy Jr. Let's say Toronto wins a championship and he gives it to his dad to hold on to. That's giving it to his father. That's not about dad never played in a World Series or dad never won one. That's about, I want my father to hold this.
Yeah.
So, and the Stanley Cup, again, is a lot different than Major League Baseball. It's a lot different than the Larry O'Brien trophy. Because remember, Steph Curry gave the Larry O'Brien trophy to Dell. Dell never sniffed the finals.
Right.
But it's his dad. So it's a different animal.
Let's actually spend the last couple of minutes talking about now. Let's go into the history of just some of the players and now probably our favorite coach in sports. Kyle Okposo, 17 years in the NHL. He's only made the playoffs 4 times. He's got his name on a cup.
That's cool.
This actually, and also when he was traded from Buffalo at the deadline, there was something put into his contract that if Florida won the cup, he got a $500,000 bonus.
See, that's awesome. See, and things like that, guys who took forever and stayed with one team and tried to get it done, those guys, that's not ring chasing. That's not ring chasing.
The last time he was in the playoffs, he was with the Islanders before he actually went to Buffalo.
Okay. But still, you're talking about the Islanders who haven't won one since the 80s. Buffalo, who's never won one, I don't believe. That's not ring chasing.
Finals, yeah.
Yeah. I would say Hasek took them to the finals, right?
99, and that was the foot in the crease.
That
was 90. Dallas was
95 or 6.
96. 96 was the Devils. So I want to say it was 97.
95 was the Devils.
So
the Rangers won it in 94. Marty won his first cup in 95. That was that Claude Lemieux team. I hated him.
Yep. But
yeah, that I enjoy.
Okposo was probably played his final game in the NHL as well. There was a lot of talk that he was going to retire. As we now know, Matthew Tkachuk is the first Tkachuk to get his name on the cup.
Yeah.
Alexei Sasha Barkov becomes the first Finnish captain to hoist the cup.
Really?
Born captain to hoist the cup.
That's awesome.
Vladimir Tarasenko joins Mark Messier as the only active players to win Game 7 in the post-expansion era twice.
In the cup final or in general?
Messier won. Messier got a Game 7 with the Oilers, and of course 94. Vladdy got
the Rangers
with the Blues in 19 and 2024 with the Panthers.
And listen, both guys and Messier was my favorite player of that team. 1A to him was Mike Richter. But Mess in those 2 games, in those Game 7s, was a force. I'm not familiar with Barkov. How did he play?
Barkov, ironically enough, is one of the only homegrown Panthers that there is. You look around. Carter Verhaeghe came from Philly. Matthew Tkachuk was that big trade with Calgary a couple of years ago. Bobrovsky came from Columbus. Okposo was a trade deadline deal with the Sabres. Tarasenko came in free agency after the Blues shipped him off to the Rangers last year. Sam Reinhart was a big free agency signing after 5 years in Buffalo. A lot of the major players on this Panthers team were brought in, but
Yeah.
it's the right mix.
Yeah, and it's special when it's a drafted, developed. See, that's special when you get that cup. And for Florida, really only have one guy on the roster who did that. I forgot Bobrovsky was in Columbus.
Bobrovsky was the guy who netmined Columbus when they swept Tampa as the in the first round as the President's winners.
That's right. That's right. Unreal. So listen, I know I took it off before because it was itching me a little bit. Hats off to the Stanley Cup champion Florida Panthers. Congratulations to Connor McDavid on winning the Conn Smythe.
And two more quick points here. Well, one more point, and then we'll actually talk about who we want to talk about here. It's always interesting to see who gets the first handoff. Could it be a veteran? Could it be somebody who's never won it? Could it be, we all remember, I think probably the most famous handoff we ever remember was 2001. Joe Sakic picked up the cup, didn't even raise it, just gave it to Raymond Bourque.
Yeah, no, that's the one I was thinking of. That was, as somebody who's not the biggest hockey guy, that one hit me.
Yeah.
That one hit you right in the feels.
I probably went back and watched that 3 or 4 times before Game 7. Bobrovsky gets the first handoff from Barkov, and then because it's Bobrovsky's 14th year in the league, and then he turns around and gives it straight to Okposo, who 17 years in the league, his first cup and his first finals. This was Okposo's first time in the finals after 2 trips to the East Finals with the Islanders in the bubble one of those years, where they went to 6 and then 7 with Tampa. But now let's talk about the one guy that we really want to, probably our new favorite coach, Mr. Paul Maurice.
Yeah, and that's to see him get that emotional when handed the cup during the interview. Was it Maddie who gave it to him?
No, it was their third string goaltender who gave it to him.
Oh, okay. Even better. Listen, he did a hell of a job. In order to get your team right to win a Game 7 after losing 4, 5, and 6, you did a hell of a job. Has he been the coach for the last couple of years too?
Okay, I've got all the numbers because Paul Maurice is probably my favorite coach in the NHL.
Okay.
Paul Maurice has coached 1,848 regular season games. That is third all time. Paul Maurice has 869 regular season wins. That is fourth all time. Paul Maurice has 736 losses. That is the most losses in history by a head coach.
Wow.
Paul Maurice has been a head coach in the NHL for 26 seasons.
Jesus.
Paul Maurice is only 57 years old. So Paul Maurice's first job was
31.
Was at 31. You will never guess who his first head coaching job was because they're not in the league anymore.
The Atlanta Thrashers.
Although he did have a tie to that organization.
Not in the league anymore. Was it Phoenix?
The Hartford Whalers.
Get the fuck out of here.
Paul Maurice was the final coach of the Hartford Whalers, then went with the team to Carolina. After Carolina, he actually spent 11 years as the coach of the Winnipeg Jets, who moved from Atlanta. Took a couple of resigned midway through the 2021-22 season, felt he was not doing. He felt he was more of a detriment to his players, and then got the call from Florida General Manager Bill Zito, and in his first year took them to the Stanley Cup Finals and then won it in their second year.
That's insane. The fact that you said the words Hartford Whalers.
And I don't know if we can find a classier head coach in all of sports right now.
No.
He will sprinkle in profanity a lot of the time.
I like that.
It's entertaining, but it's not screaming at people for the sake of screaming at people like a John Tortorella would be, like a Claude Julien sometimes would do.
And like anybody's better than fucking Mike Keenan.
Like a Rod Brindamore.
Oh God.
But we could definitely see how fired up he got during these finals, especially the goal that got waved off in Game 6, which ended up being the tipping point of that game. On the offside call that we talked about last week.
Yeah.
But for him to come over, for his goaltender to come over, and he doesn't even hoist the cup. He doesn't throw it up. He basically leans over, says a couple of choice words to the cup for how hard she was to chase down for 26 years, raises above his head, closes his eyes, and is basically just got that feeling of finally.
Yeah, no, that's what I took away from it too. What did he call it again?
I'm not sure, but he actually said, I think it was like a jaded lady or something, or
Nice.
that he
nice.
tried to chase down because this was his third trip to the finals. He wins it. Naturally, last year was the second. When Carolina went to the finals, I want to say it was in 2002. They were swept by Detroit.
Yeah, I remember that. So, yeah, he might be my new favorite coach in the NHL.
Well, here's where he's all class. He wins I've never seen a coach who gets more out of his players, but is so universally loved by his players.
Yeah, a guy who resigns because he doesn't think he's doing the job is the kind of coach people want to play for.
And did you hear what he said in that post-game interview after he gave the cup to the ownership group?
I did not know.
He said that he's got his cup, and his wish would be for the Winnipeg Jets to win the cup next year.
That's awesome.
The 11 years that he spent with them, to actually wish that your former employer wins the cup next year. As a Jets fan, I would love to see that. As a Canadian hockey fan, I would love to see that. That's just incredible.
That's class. That is it, and I'm assuming he hopes it's not against him. But
which there's a possibility it could be.
It really could, depending on what they do in free agency and what they did with the draft. Absolutely. But yeah, no, I honestly think that Maurice can have these guys back there next year. It would be kind of poetic if it was against Winnipeg, but this guy, he's good. I mean, not only is he good, he's classy. He is beloved. And to get his name on the cup, 2031, the next band comes off, by the way.
Yep.
So
he'll
be on it a couple more times.
He'll be on that cup for probably the next 60 years.
Hey, that's pretty damn cool if you ask me. What's next?
After a month coachless, the Cleveland Cavaliers have signed Kenny Atkinson to take over for JB Bickerstaff.
Well, it's about fucking time. First of all. Second of all, I like this hire. you're talking about a guy who got a lot out of a team that didn't have the greatest roster in Brooklyn. This was right before Kyrie and them, wasn't it?
Correct. I want to
Okay.
say he was fired midway through Kyrie's first year there because of the power play move that went into it.
So he had Jared Allen.
Correct. He was actually the guy who helped mold Jared Allen, and Jared Allen then gets shipped off to the Cavs, and now it's kind of a reuniting at some point.
So that's pretty cool. I know we talked about this. We talked about Borrego being in the mix. We talked about Kenny Atkinson. Was he in Golden State last year?
I want to say Borrego was in. I'm getting them mixed up. I might be getting them mixed up. I know one of them was in New Orleans and the other one was in Golden State. I want to say James Borrego was Golden State.
I think you're right.
Borrego was he's the associate head coach in New Orleans. So Kenny Atkinson was Steve
in
Kerr.
Golden State. Well, let's talk about this. Did they tab a guy who had his hands on a dynamic backcourt to keep Darius and Donovan together? Because it's been widely publicized that the Cavaliers do not want to break up their core four. I think that's a great move. You disagree. We will get more into the Cavs offseason as we go. But I honestly think Kenny Atkinson was brought in here to be an offensive coach as JB was a defensive coach. And I think we can both agree the issues that they had in the playoffs the last 2 years outside of injury, which was this year, has been on the offensive side of the ball. Not changing scheme, not making adjustments, not trusting the rotation that got you there. That's all been on the offensive side of the ball. So let's see what Kenny brings. I like an offensive-minded coach, which I think he is, if I'm remembering correctly, what Brooklyn was like pre-Kyrie. But he's worked with younger players, which, as we all know, the Cavaliers have the second youngest roster in the NBA. Their core four average age is 23. I mean, this is a guy who I think can do great things. Is he the piece to put them over the top? I don't know. I don't know if it's a coaching thing that's going to put them over the top. Me personally. What was your first thought when you saw who they grabbed to lead the franchise?
I liked it. The more I actually started looking into it, I liked the idea of Atkinson a little bit more than Borrego. Because first of all, both of them had actually been there. I want to say, I think I had sent you the information that they both had identical, and when I say both, I mean Atkinson and Borrego. I want to say that they had identical head coaching records, that they were there for 3 years and were fired in the middle of the fourth. They were sub 500. They did not coach very good teams, but they also were highly touted to be the next assistant up, and a report just came out yesterday that Borrego actually pulled out of the Detroit head coaching search that we talked about with Willie very briefly last week. So it's going to be interesting to see where the Pistons go from there, and then some of the other openings. Does Borrego have to sit back and wait a year at this point? But I kind of like the idea, but I actually want to put I don't want to pop your balloon, but there's a report that came out 2 days ago that the Cavaliers could be looking to break up the core four, but there would be a very positive return for that. The rumor that I'm hearing is there would be picks and cash considerations involved. But we could be seeing Darius Garland moved to the New Orleans Pelicans and Brandon Ingram being brought back.
That's a good move. I would be upset only because you know how I feel about building a championship. You know how it means more to me when it's the guys you groom and then you fill in. You made the choice between Darius Garland and Colin Sexton. You've given him 2 years, one of which was injury plagued for him. I personally don't feel that's fair. They were a great team this year. They could have been a better team had they had a little more luck on the injury side. I would run it back with pieces, parts being added and scheme being changed. But listen, it's at the end of the day, I have to trust Colby Altman and I have to trust their GM who have built this roster this quickly into a perennial contender in the Eastern Conference. So if Darius has got to go, as unfortunate as that would be, Darius has got to go.
Well, I think the main reason why Atkinson is here is you've got a lot of input from Donovan Mitchell, so which means the clock is probably just ticking right now before we see Donovan Mitchell sign that max extension.
No, I really think he's going to. To say this, there is not another situation that's going to get him closer to a championship than Cleveland, unless he went to Boston, which he's not going to. There's no room for him in Boston. So as Donovan Mitchell, who is, besides a psychotic Met fan like me, he's smart. He wants to win a title. He knows he's not getting any closer than where he is right now. So I would sign the max extension if I was him. I want to go over a couple of other moves I think the Cavs should make. One I sent you a message about today. I think you
Go ahead.
didn't. I think Kevin Love, who turned down his option, should come home. I honestly do.
I do not agree.
Have
with that
him fill the Tristan Thompson role.
He's not that kind of player to sit in to clog up the middle and get you 6 fouls. He's not that kind of player. He's not.
No, he's the kind of player who can get you 15 boards a game, though. Cavs' biggest problem in the postseason: offensive rebounding, health, and JB. Well, middle one's going to take care of itself if they stay healthy. You got rid of this one. Work on that.
Well, I think that's actually.
I can still do that.
I think that's if you pull the Brandon Ingram trade, that helps out because Ingram is 6'8" and can rebound pretty well.
Yes, he can. And I'm not talking about in the starting lineup, Jim. I am talking about this. Kevin Love would be a bench player because, one, he'll accept the role. Now, when we were talking about LeBron and Bronny and everything else, our question was, would he accept the role? We know Kevin Love would accept the role if he felt he had a chance to go for a title in Cleveland again. He knows how special it is. 2, they need shooters. They do. The inconsistency in the shooting that the Cavs had this year, including the playoffs, is a problem. He can shoot off the bench. He's a veteran leader who's won one and who is a key cog in winning one. That can't be overlooked. I'm not saying sign him to a max contract. I'm not saying give him anything more than a 1-year deal where he can, make whatever he wants to in the league. But he's a piece that has to be thought about. Because, no, he can't clog up and give you 6 fouls. That's not his way. But he can clog up and give you 9 boards off the bench and score you 10, 12 points if you really need him. He can hit a 3 if he needs to. And he can play decent defense all of a sudden. I don't know where the hell that came from. Why not?
I think if the option's there, I think for something like that, you bring back Marcus Morris. And you let Kevin.
Okay.
It's
okay.
Because I don't think that their issue is from the outside, because I very much like the selection of Jalen Tyson, the 6'6" guard / who can also play the 3 out of Cal in the draft back on Wednesday night. Tyson is one of the best defenders in this draft and doubled his offensive production in his final year at Cal. He averaged 19-6 for the Bears, 19.6, I should say, for the Bears this year. The ESPN profile actually says he's a big, versatile guard who nearly doubled his scoring average. He lacks high-end length and explosiveness and will need to scale down his shot selection, but he's one of the most improved players in college basketball last season. He put the ball in the basket in a variety of ways, putting pressure on the rim and showing growth as a pull-up three-point shooter. And they also do suspect that he is going to easily, with his skill set, be able to crack the rotation this year, which means Imani Bates is probably going to be out. You're going to see Isaiah Mobley probably leave. And depending on what happens, it could be a cheaper alternative than Isaac Okoro. And I know we would like to see him stay. I just don't know if you're going to be able to afford to keep him to stay, especially if you kind of have drafted now his replacement.
No, and I agree with you. I will say this. They have extended the qualifying offers to both Imani Bates and to Isaac Okoro. Or I'm not, they haven't. They are expected to. But again, the question becomes the teams that have the cap space are not the teams that are fighting to win a championship. So as a player, what do you want? Do you want to go out and make your money? Go make your money. Go make your money. I don't blame you one bit. You want to set your family up for generations? Go ahead. You want to win a title and make a shade less? That's your choice. Not that I think that if Boston comes back anywhere close to what they were this year, obviously Boston's going to be odds-on favorite to repeat. Maybe with Okoro and this kid from Cal, they can give Boston a run. Who knows?
I mean,
but we got a long way to go in the offseason, but that's just the first two things that jumped into my head.
Exactly. And I mean, would a Kevin Love reunion be nice? Yeah, but I think it would have about as much substance as LeBron. It's basically kind of a farewell tour at this point because Kevin Love's got a lot of miles on his body. He has not played a full season since he was back in Minnesota. And his clock is ticking. And his clock is just about up, let's be honest.
Oh, I agree with you 100%. What's he going in the year 15?
Yes.
So, no, I agree. I'm not in disagreement with that. My whole thing about bringing Kevin back was more about presence, was more about what he can do off the bench in limited time, and what he would bring to a team that, remember, when Donovan was traded to Cleveland, one of the players he was excited that did not go in the package was Kevin Love. So let's see what happens. I like it. And again, it's because of the nostalgia thing with me. You know that. I'm the big softy. I'm sure we'll talk about the other thing I was a big softy about this last week. But I would like to see that. Shut up. All right, what else we got?
Speaking of drafts, the NBA held their draft on Wednesday, concluded on Thursday, and the NHL then picked up the slack and had their first round in the Sphere in Las Vegas, which was very cool.
That was fucking cool.
And then rounds 2 through 7 concluded today.
Did you see the trade thing? That was fucking cool.
They need to hold the draft at the Sphere every year.
How about Michael Buffer?
The NBA needs to take notice. You need to put that in the Sphere every year. The NHL knocked it out of the damn park.
They did. And the guest pickers, Michael Buffer announces the Philadelphia Flyers pick.
Dion with the Canadians.
That was phenomenal. And was Celine's pick the one that who was the one that was drafted number 3 that nobody fucking expected?
That was the kid that went to Anaheim, because even he said, "What the F?"
I saw that. That was insanity to me.
He was expected to go top 5, but he didn't even think he was going 3. He thought he was going 4, 5, maybe even 6.
That's crazy. So let's talk about the NBA draft real quick. And how Zach Edey went 9.
to Memphis, which nobody thought.
No, no one saw him going in the top 10. I will say this. The Lakers got a fucking steal at 17.
Yes, I even actually I messaged Willie about it. Getting Dalton Connect at 17.
That was huge. That
How
was
about
absolutely massive.
how about Portland getting Bub Carrington to play alongside Scoop Henderson at 14, and then also getting another, and then getting Donovan Clingan at 7. I thought, for me personally, I thought Portland had the best draft of anybody.
I do too, with just those two players. Who was the kid from the Cinderella team in the tournament that was hitting the threes left, right, and center? Was it Golke was his last name?
Tristan Da Silva to Orlando. That's going to be scary.
Especially if Paul George ends up there.
Yeah. Didn't go in the first round. Baylor Shireman going from Creighton going to Boston at 30. Just what they need, another spot up shooter on the wing.
Yeah.
Victor Wembanyama's got his point guard and Stephon Castle.
How about 2 years in a row, a Frenchman goes number 1?
Yeah, Zachary Risacher, or however you pronounce it. I'm not sure if it's Risacher or Risache. Going to the Hawks number 1, which actually you got to think now, if they're retooling, is Trae Young finally getting moved? I understand that Trae Young's a point guard, but are they moving him and going a different direction?
It's possible. Trae Young's becoming a little bit of a pain. I'm looking for that guy's name. Who was the Cinderella that this dude was hitting threes left, right, and center? What the hell? I'm trying to see.
I'm trying to remember who the Cinderella was last year. Because most of the names I'm seeing, because I'm looking into round 2, and we'll talk about round 2 here in a second. But Kyle Filipowski going to the Jazz, which I like a lot, because now you've got him, you've got Lauri Markkanen and Colin Sexton all together.
That's good.
That's going to be fun. Tyler Kolek is the third Blazer, and Tyler Kolek from Marquette, another point guard. Johnny Furphy from Kansas going to the Spurs at 35. Adem Bona going to Philly, the center at 41. Jamal Sheed from Houston, a point guard, going to Sacramento at 45 is very interesting. Antonio Reeves from Kentucky going to the Magic at 47. Harrison Ingram from North Carolina going to the Spurs at 48. Indiana filling a couple of holes, going back-to-back 49 and 50, getting Tristan Newton from UConn and Enrique Freeman from Akron. So that's a point guard and a power forward, respectively. A lot of international players, a lot of G League players here. I like the fit of Alex Sarr going to Washington at 2, though.
Is he the one that they said looks like Caitlin Clark?
Yeah, a little bit, yeah.
I thought so. So, Jim, let's talk about it. Let's talk about the 55th pick.
From Nepotism U.
Oh, stop it. Yes, because Luke Walton was such a phenomenal player.
Luke Walton wasn't drafted by his dad.
Neither was Bronny.
Who runs the show there?
Now, I honestly believe it's JJ Redick. No, it's JJ Redick.
It's LeBron.
It's JJ Redick.
I'm going to quote Stephen A. Smith, LeBron.
So here's where I disagree. And here's where I agree. Yes. Did the Lakers draft Bronny because LeBron is there and what have you? Absolutely. But nepotism is all over the NBA. Stop. It's all over. It is. And it's not just on the floor. It's on the floor now because it's the first time we've seen a father-son be able to play together. But how many guys who are in the league have front office? Jerry West's kid, do you think he got a front office job because his CV was good? No, he got on his last name. Austin Rivers. Hello. Okay, in college, he had some big shots, but he wasn't that great in the NBA. And now he's got a media job where he's just spouting off at the mouth. Why? Because he's Doc's kid. I mean, we've seen it too many times. Is it getting overblown because it's Bronny James? Yes, absolutely. 100%. And I don't think there's a person on the planet who's thrown the nepotism card out that doesn't understand that. Having said that, I made this comparison the other day. I was talking to my sister because she had brought it up to me. He's very JJ Redick-esque in the way he plays the game. JJ wasn't the biggest. He wasn't the strongest. What he could do was play defense, and he could hit a three. They said the improvement on Bronny from the end of the college season, which, yes, he needed another year. I agree with you 100%. From there to the combine was almost exponential. Now he's got a few months. They're not talking. He's not going to be. He may be on the floor opening night because he's going to be one of those, what C.J. McCollum was talking about, the get ready squad or the stay ready squad, where 3 to 4 days a week, he's going to be playing games with coaches, developmental guys. I think he's a developmental project who at 55, you're not giving anything crazy up. They did not draft him at 17 where they got Dalton Connect. They drafted him in the back end of round 2 to get him in the mix. At 55, it's not a bad move because you can develop him. No one's expecting him to be ready to play on opening night. Is he going to play on opening night? Probably. They're going to do it for the nostalgia, for the first ever, what have you. You're going to see courtside Ken Griffey Jr. and Sr. as Griffey promised he would be at the first game. It's not a horrific pick. He's got talent. If they develop it correctly, he will never be his old man. But he can be a damn good NBA player.
I think I don't see him shaking out nearly as where everyone thinks. I think he's a role player at best. I think I think once LeBron basically retires, he's going to play the 1 year with his kid. He doesn't have a whole lot left in the tank. I think it's the 1 year nostalgic and you're giving, and then basically it's back to status quo with the Lakers. Sorry, Willie, you guys are back in the lottery starting next year. Anthony Davis can't stay healthy. LeBron's going to be gone, and Bronny's going to be in the G League next year.
Well, let me ask this question. Would that be the worst thing for Bronny?
Bronny should have gone to the G League or stayed another year at Southern Cal because I've never seen a prospect come out with more hype than scout and analyst said he's not ready. I've never seen one guy get universally panned that he's not ready and he's being drafted purely for the sideshow, which that's what this is. This is a sideshow.
Agreed. But we have seen guys universally panned that have panned out. I will go to last year's NFL draft and give you the name C.J. Stroud one more time. How many people blasted him because, oh, he is a product of how many good players around him. He's this, he's that. Well, he came out last year, showed out, won the Offensive Rookie of the Year, went on.
Yeah, but the difference is Stroud, you knew he was going to start and you knew he was going to show some flashes. And yes, he was put in the right system, but there's no doubting that he should have been a first round talent, if not surely a top 10 talent, with the run on quarterbacks that there were. So you knew his name was going to be up there. Bronny James should not have been drafted. Bronny James, and the part that also rubs me the wrong way is Rich Paul telling every team, if you draft him,
that was crap.
Going to Australia. And I sent it out there, and you agreed with me. If I was Boston, who was picking at 54, I would have picked him and let him sit over in Australia for 3 years, owning his rights, knowing that LeBron was not going to play until he's 45.
Did you see what Legler said? He said it's time to start the Cold War again. If I'm Boston, I take Bronny at 54, and then I send him a note. We have your son. And it's gonna take Austin Reeves to get him if you want him.
I have a very particular set of skills.
Unlike
your son, who needs to develop his.
I'm not looking at his season last year because of his health issue. He would have started the year if he would have had a full season. With what I watched him under, really with constraints on him after the issue last summer, I honestly think Bronny in his freshman year would have been a 9 to 12 point a game, 4 to 5 assists a game, 2 to 3 boards a game, and played really good defense. Going into cardiac arrest obviously messed up his season. He didn't start playing till January. By January in college basketball, you've played 3/4 of your season. You've only got that quarter left before you get to the tournament. And let's be honest, USC was dog shit. So you really can't. He should have stayed in school. I agree with you. Never mind the G League. He should have stayed in school. But he bet on himself. He impressed people enough at the combine that Rich Paul was saying, if you're going to draft him, don't. He's going to go to Australia. Because there must have been more than just the Lakers intrigued by him. Is Rich Paul a douche for doing that? Yes.
Yeah, but how much of that were teams actually intrigued in him, knowing that he could end up with the Lakers? And how many teams were actually thinking that if we draft him, if LeBron opts out, could we bring him in for a year? That's really all.
I'm here so I won't get fined.
Can you honestly tell me somebody is drafting Bronny James after his health issues to be able to get into their rotation and not end up being a two-way player?
No, I can't.
Exactly.
But that's what I'm saying. That's what the Lakers drafted him for. JJ Redick's not going to play him. He's not going to be the starting 2-guard or point guard on opening night. It's not going to happen. Will he see the floor with his old man? Probably. Because of the sideshow. I'm not disagreeing with you. What I'm saying is if they develop him and they put the time into him, they can have a very good NBA player. The issue I have with this is Scottie Pippen's cuckold was never this good. That he even sniffed being drafted. You have guys who play sports at a high level whose kids don't play that sport. Ken Griffey Jr.'s kid was a wide receiver at Arizona State. Darryl Strawberry's kid, DJ, was drafted by Phoenix. The Suns, not the Diamondbacks. He's trying to make a name for himself. That I have to applaud him on. Was the door open because of his old man? Absolutely. That's not even a question here. But if he steps through it, and he lets the Lakers develop him and he meets their marks and he earns his playing time, I think he'll be a very serviceable player. I don't have a problem with it at all. I think we all knew when he came out that he was going to the Lakers. Everybody knew that. Of course, there was the nostalgia saying, okay, bring LeBron home, bring Bronny home, do it that way. The Lakers just did this a couple years ago with a player who was making plays and won a ring in the bubble. I can't remember his name. They got him somewhere close to then, but he followed the plan. And he was able to be a serviceable player. I'm not talking about Bronny James ever signing a max contract. I'm not talking about Bronny James ever being the cornerstone of a championship. I'm talking about taking a chance on a kid who's got promise to become a good player. Nothing wrong with that. And if his name wasn't LeBron James Jr., nobody would be having this conversation. You'd see the Lakers taking a chance on a guy at 55 to develop and turn into a good player. And you'd be like, oh, okay. Whereas it was the sideshow to get drafted, the media sideshow is because of his name, not because of his skill set.
Which is, again, why I've said before and I'll say again, unless you're in the lottery, because of how short it is anymore,
yeah,
the NBA draft doesn't mean shit.
It doesn't. You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. There's a lot more
outside of Kyle Filipowski and Tyler
his Mormon girlfriend.
Can you look at the second round of the draft and say, this guy's going to be a starter, this guy's going to fit in the rotation, this guy's going to be serviceable in 3 years? Most of these guys in the G League or black aces.
No, but no one thought Tony Parker would be a Hall of Famer. He was a second round pick.
But there's a massive difference with other sports because of the fact that you've got
Tony Parker from the San Antonio Spurs.
Oh, okay.
Was a second round pick. But this is what I'm saying. You don't know until you see what these teams do to develop them. Yes. Are the players less skilled than the guys in the lottery? Absolutely. Are some of these teams at fault for taking guys they could have developed into really good players and fucking them because they don't want to waste their time? What the fuck did you draft them for?
Yeah, but I also think that the Tony Parker is a little bit of an anomaly because anyone who was brought into that organization under the Popovich and Tim Duncan tree was going to be a success.
I don't disagree, but that's not the point I'm making. Did anyone see him being that? Being a success is one thing. Hey, Avery Johnson was a success. Richard Jefferson was a success.
Robert Horry won 3 titles with them.
Robert Horry won 7 titles overall.
As the 7th or 8th man in that rotation.
But that's what I'm saying.
Brent Berry got a title with them.
Let's talk nepotism again. But having said that, could Bronny be a 6th man of the year? Possibly. Could he be a serviceable rotation player? Yes. I firmly believe he can be.
As bad as the Lakers are going to be, that might be his ceiling right now.
And you know what, though? Something tells me that's okay with him because he wants to be his own person. I don't know if you saw the shop interview that it was LeBron, it was will.i.am, it was Rich Paul, it was a few other guys.
Absolutely. And there's no reason I would watch any sort of LeBron interview in the last 5 years.
I will tell you this. I don't watch them either. Like, I didn't get into the podcast with him and JJ Redick, which I heard was just basketball savant, left, right, and center. But this was a great thing. He asked Bronny, what do you want? He said, I want to make a name for myself. And how do you not give him the tools to do that? Because that's all he's really done. The only thing LeBron's done is get his name pulled out of a hat. He's got to do all the rest of the work. And if he doesn't do the work, he's not going to play. Because like you said, his old man's only got a year or 2 left. Who, by the way, he officially opted out of his contract, by the way.
So he wants to get it done by himself. So his 3 options when he went to college was either stay at home where his dad is at UCLA, at USC, go back basically to the biggest basketball school in the state that he grew up in at overrated state, or go play at Duke, which is the basketball powerhouse.
Number one, he would not have seen the floor as a freshman at Duke. Number two, I don't believe he would have seen the floor as a freshman at Ohio State either.
I think he would have definitely seen the floor at Ohio State because Ohio
I don't think
dog shit.
I don't think Holtman would have played him much. I don't. Holtman lost his job for a reason. I don't think Holtman would have played him much. We all know I can't stand Chris Holtman. I don't think he would have played him, and I think that's why he chose USC, because he knew pre-health issue he was going to be in rotation. This whole conversation is different if he doesn't have that issue. I will be honest with you.
There's a difference why he chose USC as opposed to UCLA, because he knew he would have basically been no better than a walk-on at UCLA.
UCLA didn't offer him.
He's got it, obviously.
Well, you've got to go where your offers are. That's like saying
what I'm saying is he basically took the second fiddle route.
No, I think he took the route that was going to get him on the floor. It's like a good college football player not going to Ohio State, Alabama, one of the big boys, and going to Cincinnati, going to Marshall, going to where the kid I grew up with is now the AD at Memphis. You go where you're going to play. I don't fault him for that.
Well,
it would have been stupid to go somewhere to sit.
Well, let's play devil's advocate before we go into halftime here, and we'll close on this. If he does not have the health issues, plays the full season, does he go back to USC? And let's say that the NBA had the requirement that you had to, like how it used to be, where you had to play 2 years before you could jump.
Okay.
Does he stay at USC for the second year? Or does he end up transferring to a big boy school, like possibly look to go to like a Kentucky, a UCLA, a Michigan? I don't think he actually would have been talented enough to get to a UConn at that point. But does he jump to a major school? Because let's be honest, USC is in a major conference, but they are a second fiddle basketball school.
I think he stays at USC because, again, it's about getting on the floor. All right, let me give you this example. Pete Alonso went to the University of Florida. You know who the center fielder was that played with Pete Alonso? Harrison Bader. Harrison Bader had to sit his freshman year because there was somebody in front of him. So Bader, after his sophomore year, was guaranteed, or after his freshman year, was guaranteed to start. Well, do you go to a big boy school or do you play? And yes, Florida's a big boy school when it comes to baseball, so it's a bad example, but you go where you're going to play. Quinn Ewers is the perfect example. Quinn Ewers was not going to play at Ohio State. He left high school early. He declared early. He went to Columbus, said he learned a ton from Ryan Day about playing quarterback, went back to Texas because he was going to play. He wasn't beating C.J. Stroud out. We all know that. He wasn't. He went back to play. And now Quinn Ewers is an odds-on Heisman favorite. He's got a shot. He's taken his team to a playoff where he came within an eyelash of playing for a national championship because he went where he's going to play. I don't think Bronny would have played anywhere else. You stay at USC, you play, you bump up your draft stock, you go into the draft next year. He went this year probably because he didn't think he had anything else, could learn anything else at the college level. I disagree. His reasons are his reasons. He did what he did.
Very quickly here, we're going to cut the NBA conversation short because we've got to talk very, very briefly. We talked a ton of hockey. Macklin Celebrini from Boston University, the odds-on number one, goes to San Jose in Friday night's draft. And no real major surprises. Maybe just kind of the order is where the top 5 ended up going. But then we saw a run on trades, like we typically do, like we usually do. The Buffalo Sabres buy out the final 3 years of All-Star Jeff Skinner's contract, making him a free agent. The Blues shop Kevin Hayes only after 1 year into a 3-year contract after getting him from the Flyers last year. The Tampa Bay Lightning shipped Mikhail Sergachev to Utah, and Steven Stamkos is going to opt into free agency. All of this in the last 24 hours.
See, now the thing about the NHL that's always made me smile with the draft is they go apeshit. These teams just lose their fucking minds because you have guys, like you said, buying out 3 years of free agency, guys opting out of contracts, opting into contracts being used as trade bait for draft picks. It's so much fun. Honestly, the NFL draft is the biggest spectacle. The MLB draft is the biggest reach. The NBA draft is the most boring one because after 10 picks it's a fucking crapshoot. The NHL is the one that makes you go, what?
Because a lot of the times it's after really outside of the first round, regardless of how close you follow, but because you've got players coming in from all over the world, the KHL, the Czech League, junior teams, junior national teams, getting drafted here. But it's also that the NFL, you've got juniors and seniors over 7 rounds, and you've seen just about all of these guys play. You've got high school players being drafted in the MLB. The NBA is now starting to get that flair, but the rosters are so small that 2 rounds, it doesn't really matter because of all the European talent that's coming in. You can't keep up with them. The NHL, again, outside of the first round, you're not really paying attention to who most of these guys are unless you're invested, in that school. But this is where the trade craziness happens even before free agency starts.
Yeah, no, and that's why the NHL draft is the most interesting to me, because you have these teams that, because the NHL is the closest thing to Major League Baseball we have too, if you think about it, with the minor leagues. As we saw our Monsters nearly win a second Calder Cup in the last decade. You have these guys come in and they don't play right away unless they are Connor Bedard or guys like that. They're developed.
I mean,
there's that word again.
Yeah, Macklin Celebrini is going to be on the ice opening night. Macklin Celebrini is right now going to be the odds-on favorite to win the Calder Trophy next year as the rookie
of the year.
Just like Connor Bedard did this past year, leading all rookies in scoring, even with that dog shit lineup.
But here's the thing, though. Because it is so diverse, because of where they're all coming from, we had Celine Dion announce a Russian player with a French accent. Off the charts. But I'll say this. First of all, hats off to an American player going number 1 in the NHL draft. But also, the NHL is the other league where you can develop because you have a minor league system. You don't have a minor league system in the NFL. You don't have one. You kind of have one in the NBA and the G League. But the NHL is one where you see guys developed. So you can get a diamond in the rough late in the first round, beginning of the second round, and you can say, all right, let's put you in, if you're Columbus, let's put you in Cleveland. Let's see how you play. Oh, by the way, we're 2 hours away. If we need you, we're going to come grab you. And if we don't need you, we can send you right back up 71.
That's actually if you're ready, because I guarantee out of the entire draft, you might see over 240 players picked over 7 rounds. You're going to see maybe 3 of those first-round picks in their lineups opening night. The rest of them are either going to be sent to their junior teams. They're going to go back to school for another year. When my Sabres selected Owen Power #1 from the University of Michigan 3 years ago. He went back for his senior season at Michigan to try and win a national title, then went to Rochester for a year, and then came up late in the season, and then is now one of the back ends of their. Rasmus Dahlin was taken #1 back in 2018. He went off and played in Sweden for 2 more seasons before he came stateside.
Yeah, and it's because there is so much hockey around the world that they can do that, and it's also because college hockey in the United States has gotten so much bigger. I mean, years ago, Jim, we only heard about BU against BC, the Beanpot trophy,
or New Hampshire or Maine,
or
and then Denver coming on in recent years.
or Harvard.
Yeah.
But now, both on the men's and women's sides, the champions of the Big Ten. Granted, it's Wisconsin, which is constant winner. And on the women's side, Ohio State with the PWHL, you're going to see those ladies.
Michigan, Ohio State, yeah.
Notre Dame. So you have teams in the United States now that are making strides to get there. And you have a talent pool to pull from in the U.S. But again, a lot of these guys, even the top echelon picks, have to be developed to play at the NHL level. And that is the one thing Major League Baseball and the NHL do, is they develop their talent. And you are given every chance as a top draft pick to be developed to be that player everyone wants you to be. If the NBA had that and it was more of a thing that they did, that 10 minutes about Bronny you and I just did would be a moot point. Because we know he'd be going to the developmental. We know he'd be being built to be something. I want to give the kid the benefit of the doubt. I want to see what he turns into. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. It doesn't matter in my life. What the hell ever. Do I want to see him and his old man take the floor together? Yes, that would be just fucking cool.
So we're actually going to take a very, very quick halftime tonight because we went almost an hour and a half in the first part of the show. We got a couple of things to talk about in the blast. We're going to whip through them pretty quick here. And of course, we've got the YZ translator to close out. So we want to get you guys to bed at a decent hour tonight. And we will be back with you guys very, very shortly.
See you in a few.
As we said, short and sweet tonight.
Look what kind it is. Vanilla caramel fudge. It's this and 2 peanut butter cup ones that are in the freezer right now, as it was 3 for $10 today.
I had a taste for gelato because I was watching a Hallmark movie where they were making gelato the other night.
Wait, did you see there's a new Hallmark movie coming out? It's about Travis and Taylor.
Yes. It'll be in time for Countdown for Christmas this November.
Jesus Christ. I gotta say, on that,
I wasn't going to pay attention to that.
Well, I knew you were going to.
They've got Christmas in July going on right now.
Oh, Jesus fucking Christ.
Hey, as hot as it's been, we could just watch it and think, ooh, the cold's coming. That's going to feel real nice right about now with how friggin' muggy it is. It's 73 degrees outside right now, and it rained all day here. It is muggier than shit. And again, only 73 degrees. It's going to be perfect sleeping weather, although it's not going to be 16 hours like last night.
It's 83 right now.
Yeah, but you also got a hurricane coming up your way, don't you?
Got to stock up on the booze. So, Jim, you said the blast is loaded. Let's get to it, and let's throw this sucker out there. Can we leave Jamarcus for last, please?
Yeah, we can definitely leave Jamarcus for last. But the MLB whip around.
We got lots to go over.
Yeah, I was going to say, we've got a lot to go over and not a whole lot of time to do it.
Let's start with the 2 hottest teams in baseball playing each other this weekend in Queens, as the 2 best records in the month of June face off, as the Mets have been taking on the Astros. The Mets with a big win last night, and then a bullpen game that just blew up in their face today. I will say this, Grimace was back in the ballpark the other night. Not only was there 2 sightings, one was with the 7-line Army against the Yankees in their 9-7 win on Tuesday, where Grimace during the rain delay was doing shots and drinking beer in the costume on the Shea Bridge. And the next night, the Mets, they kicked the shit out of the Yankees the next night. The combined score of the 2 nights, the Mets won those 2 games 21-9. And as I told you, Garrett Cole, there's something wrong.
Yeah, I'm glad that you actually brought that up so we can transition to that. Michael, can you name, over the last 10 games, who is the hottest team in baseball and who is the coldest team in baseball without looking?
Coldest team is the Yankees.
Right now, currently tied with the Rockies, 2-8 in their last 10. And the
hottest teams.
And the Yankees have actually now fallen. They've now dropped out of first place with that mark, as the Orioles have won 4 in a row.
And the 2 hottest teams are the New York Mets and the Cleveland Guardians.
That would actually be incorrect on both accounts.
Really? Who is it?
The Houston Astros are 8-2. The San Diego Padres are 9-1 in their last 10. And don't look now, they've won 5 in a row. It is the longest. It is tied with the Angels for the longest current winning streak in baseball, and they are now just 7 behind the Dodgers.
Look out. As the Mets vaulted themselves back into the wild card race, they're now a game and a half out of that 3rd wild card spot. As did Houston. Houston had a terrible April. The Mets had a terrible May. So, look, we got a long way to go. Jim, I mentioned to you we had to do a On This Date in History. It was 34 years ago tonight that ESPN broadcast 2 no-hitters in the same night, as Dave Stewart of the Oakland Athletics no-hit the Toronto Blue Jays in Toronto, and the great Fernando Valenzuela no-hit the St. Louis Cardinals in Chavez Ravine on the same night, June 29th, 1990. That was back in the day. Shut the fuck up.
Because here's the thing. They were both out on the West Coast.
No, they weren't. Stewie threw the no-no in Skydome. ESPN broadcast both games. The first game, remember when Berman used to do the thing, and on Wednesday nights they had the first game on the East Coast and they had the nightcap out here at the Hotel California. Remember that ESPN commercial years ago? Berman called the second one. I believe it was our buddy. We just did Baltimore. He was an old Mets guy too. Gary Thorne. I'm pretty sure Gary Thorne called Dave Stewart's no-hitter against Toronto in Toronto, and Boomer called Fernando's no-hitter in LA against the Cardinals. Don't give me the crickets on a 2 no-hitters in one night. That's bull.
I was thinking that both of them had happened out on the West Coast, so nobody was going to be up to watch them.
No, the first one was on the East Coast. It was in Toronto. But think about the 2 names I just threw out there: Dave Stewart and Fernando Valenzuela. That was after it was 34 years ago. How the fuck old are we? One last thing to get to in the MLB whip around. Hats off to Stephen Vogt. Listen, the Cleveland Guardians / Indians in the last 25, 30 years haven't gotten a lot of managerial hires wrong. Eric Wedge was good. Manny Acta was not. But going from Mike Hargrove to Charlie Manuel was a good move. Was it Charlie Manuel to Manny Acta?
Charlie Manuel to Eric Wedge. Eric Wedge gets canned for Manny Acta. Manny Acta gets canned. Tito comes in.
And we know what Tito did. Is it just that catchers are going to be good managers?
I'm here so I won't get fined.
Thank you. But yeah, and the Gardos, good God.
Second best record in baseball. Even though it's not as many wins as some of the other teams, mathematically with the winning percentage, they're only 9 percentage points behind the Phillies for the best record in baseball right now.
Yeah, and the Phillies took a couple of body blows.
Did you see that? And that's keeping in mind that the Guardians knocked around the Royals earlier today after getting knocked around yesterday, 10-3, and losing 3 in a row.
Kansas City is going to be a bitch.
Kansas City, well, I mean, even so with that, Tanner Bybee, another good showing. We talk about, and we'll shift off of MLB with this, we talk about something's not right with Garrett Cole. You can expand on that. Tristan McKenzie should have opted for surgery and not rehab this, because Tristan McKenzie is a shell of what he once was. And I even said it. He gave up 2 runs in the first half, in the top half of the first inning against Toronto the other night. And I'm like, yeah, I'm done. He needs to go back to Columbus, or he needs to get DFA'd at this point.
Well, I got to watch McKenzie. I haven't watched many Guardians highlights this year. Obviously, my mornings start. If I'm down here before Bobby and Steph, I got the Met highlights from the night before because I usually listen. But Garrett Cole the other night against the Mets. Yes, it's only a second start off the IL. Had some elbow issues at the beginning of the year. Did not start till late. Garrett Cole, as I told you on Thursday, is one of the best pitchers in baseball right now. Not named Jacob deGrom when healthy. That really accentuates his lower half in his mechanics. He doesn't look the same. He's more upright. The ball is not, he doesn't have that extra at the end. His cutter is flat. His slider is flat. Mark Vientos hit a ball, hasn't landed yet off Garrett Cole. So that's going to be interesting, because I will say this. Aaron Judge very quietly has 30-plus home runs already. Juan Soto's got over 20. They only become the 3rd teammates in Yankee history this early in the season to do that. The other 2 teammates setups are Ruth and Gehrig and Mantle and Maris. Pretty decent company. But the Yankees don't have Anthony Rizzo right now. No one is hitting but Aaron Judge. And as you said, they're 2-8 in their last 10. That lineup falls off a cliff That's not going to play with Baltimore, with the way the Red Sox are playing. It's not going to play. They need to fix it. What else? Oh, I said this to you off the air. Ellie De La Cruz has stolen his 40th bag today.
Yep.
That's not even fucking cool. So we're what? 7? We're 80. We're 81 games in. We're at the halfway point.
52 and 29. Yeah, we are exactly the halfway point for a lot of teams today.
So he's on pace for 80. That ain't cool. Yeah, we're 2 weeks from the All-Star break. You believe that shit?
Yeah.
And yes, I voted for Andres Jimenez and Jose Ramirez to go to the All-Star game.
Jose Ramirez, can he note to pitchers around the American League, when Jose calls it home run peach, don't throw it.
He only calls it home run peach to Andre.
He's got 23. He's hitting 280 with 75 RBIs.
Jesus.
Could we be looking at Jose finally getting the respect that he deserves? And if he keeps this up, Jose Ramirez should win the MVP.
Nope. Because Judge is going to hit 295, hit 55 to 60, and drive in 140 runs.
Yeah, but if the Yankees keep playing the way that they will, they'll be in the
Doesn't
wild
matter.
card, where the Guardians will actually have the number 1 seed.
Doesn't matter. And do you want to know why it doesn't matter? The name, Aaron Judge. He's going to win another MVP.
You know what it's going to remind you of? It's going to remind you of when Albert Bell got robbed in 95 by Mo Vaughn.
No, Mo Vaughn, Albert Bell got robbed in 95 because he was an asshole. Jose's going to get robbed because Aaron Judge plays for the Yankees. That's the only reason. If I had an MVP vote at the end of the year and you're talking Judge hits 295 with 60 and 140 and Jose hits 295 with 40 and 130, I'm voting for Jose every day of the week because, number one, he plays third base. His team is better. He's going to have the better. He's going to do more for his team. So, no, and he doesn't have the kind of backup. No disrespect to the rest of the Guardians lineup, but they're not Juan Soto. So let's go back to the NHL. Let's talk about the Hall of Fame selections. Did I see a name that I want to throw hands with in that list?
Named to the Hockey Hall of Fame earlier this week, in no particular order, Shea Weber, the longtime defenseman, most notably with the Nashville Predators, Pavel Datsyuk, the one-time captain of the Detroit Red Wings, former NHL general manager David Poile, former senior executive vice president of hockey operations Colin Campbell, and if you've seen Steve Dangle, he takes massive umbrage with the Colin Campbell one.
And he absolutely should.
And we'll hold off on one more there. And where did it go? Former United States women's national team forwards Natalie Darwitz and Chrissy Wendell Pohl, who were both members of that gold medal team in Pyeongchang. And the last name that Mike is going to take massive umbrage with, Jeremy Roenick.
Oh, that's who I wanted to fucking throw hands with. He's a scumbag. I cannot. He's almost as bad as the asshole who's getting sued for stealing money. He is. If Stifler's character from Goon could cross with one of the fucking brothers from Slapshot and take on the attitude of the head coach from Iceland in the second Mighty Ducks movie, that's Jeremy Roenick. That's right fist to the face every chance you fucking get.
Now, here's the thing, though. The numbers back themselves up.
Absolutely, the numbers back it up. I didn't say he wasn't a great player. I said he was an asshole.
Datsyuk, two-time Stanley Cup champion in 2002 and 2008, won the Selke Trophy as the league's best defensive forward 3 straight years from 2007 to 2010. The Lady Byng Trophy for sportsmanship. Also had 918 points, was a plus 249 in 953 regular season games,
That's
only had
good.
314 goals in his career, but it was also a lot of his international work where he won gold in 2018 and the 2012 World Championships, bronze in '02 in Salt Lake, and then won the Gagarin Cup, which is the KHL's championship trophy, in 2017, and a two-time KHL All-Star. Shea Weber played from 2005 to 2021 with Nashville and Montreal, had 589 points in over 1,000 games, and averaged more than 24 minutes of ice time per game, had 42 points in 97 playoff games, and was a first team NHL All-Star in 2011 and 2012. Won gold with Canada in Vancouver in 2010, and also 2014 in Sochi. Won gold in the 2016 World Cup, the 2007 World Championships, and the 2005 World Juniors. Roenick had the best numbers of all three: 513 goals, 703 assists for 1,216 points in 1,363 regular season games across 5 teams, had 122 points in 154 playoff games, and won silver in 2002 in Salt Lake City.
Did he win a cup?
He did not.
Good. No, I'm kidding. Sorry.
Darwitz played for the United States at the '02, '06, and 2010 Olympics, winning 2 silvers and a bronze. Wendell Pohl played for the United States from 1999 to 2007, scoring 106 goals in 147 international games. Won silver in 2002, bronze in 2006 when she was the captain, and also played in 6 world championships, including 2005, where she was MVP for the United States' first ever gold medal win. She won silver 5 times. David Poile was a general manager in the NHL for more than 40 years, dating all the way back to the Washington Capitals in 1982. I mostly remember him from his time with the Nashville Predators. And Colin Campbell spent 25 years in hockey operations in the NHL, officiating and central scouting, and won a Stanley Cup as an assistant and associate head coach with the Rangers in '94. Michael, you saw the thing with Steve Dangle about Colin Campbell. Your thoughts?
I think he should be nowhere near the Hockey Hall of Fame with that. He should not still be employed by the NHL, but then Gary Bettman's an idiot too. The NHL lets these scumbags in. Why isn't Pete?
Yeah. So for those who have no idea what we're talking about, there were confirmed reports that it came to light that Campbell had poignant comments made about referees, penalties called on his son Gregory, criticism of Mark Savard of the Boston Bruins. He used his influence over referees to complain about penalties called against his son.
Got guys fired.
Yeah.
Listen, Jim.
And this is a story going all the way back to 2010 as well.
Yeah, you were talking nepotism in the last segment.
Yeah.
I think this is worse. Just me. Look, congratulations to all the inductees except Colin Campbell, because they all did earn it. And again, Roenick, for as much of a prick as he is, he backed it up, and he was a phenomenal player. The two ladies, because I've watched more women's international hockey than men's for the United States, kind of like same thing with soccer. Both of them earned it to get in there. Not as familiar with that. I mean, I know the name. I know the name Datsuk. I'm not as familiar with it because of my lack of hockey knowledge. Post 94 and pre Wise Guy show. But again, the numbers backed it up. That plus 249 that's an impressive number.
Yeah.
Once you explain to me what plus minus was with the NHL, that's a very impressive number, especially in all the minutes he logged.
Because you also notice how the NBA has gone to the plus minus number and how impressive it has become in recent years.
Agreed. I will say this, however, going on behalf of Jeremy Roenick, there really wasn't at one point in time wasn't a much better player in the NHL than Jeremy Roenick. He happened to land on teams that just weren't going to win. Was he St. Louis for a long time?
A lot of people thought that those Chicago teams with him, Steve Larmer, Chris Chelios, Ed Belfour, just never were able to get it done. Although they ran into.
I
want to say that they did play in a cup final. I want to say that Montreal beat them in the finals in '93.
I think that's who Montreal beat. But I will say this. Those teams kept running into teams like that Montreal team when the Colorado Avalanche came into being with Joe Sakic and Patrick Waugh and those boys. You had to deal with teams like those Rangers, like those New Jersey Devils, the Mike Modano-led Dallas Stars.
And that's after he left Chicago and went to the desert. Yeah.
Yeah, and you figure, well, they gave him a shit ton of money.
He couldn't get past my Blues for several years in the playoffs.
See, I thought he played for the Blues, but it wasn't he played for him. It was that he couldn't get past them.
Oh, because that was during the time where Chris Pronger was our captain.
That's right. Pronger was an asshole too.
Yeah, but I've always been a little bit partial to Pronger.
Well, that's because he played for your team.
Yeah, he was a captain for us. When he went to Philadelphia, then I lost all respect for him. It's just with the.
That's just because he went to Philly.
Exactly, but I liked him when he was with us, but it's also just remembering some of the guys who were on that team, including the late great Pavel Demitra.
Yeah, no, Pavel Demitra was a fucking badass.
And Pavel Demitra, unfortunately, was part of the HC Locomotive tragedy from years ago.
Yeah, absolutely. But no, listen, you make it to the Hall of Fame. You obviously made an impact on hockey. Again, Colin Campbell did no. Although I will say this, baseball is mourning another Hall of Famer. So Orlando Cepeda, from my father's homeland, passed away just the other day. Pretty sure he's the one that did time. It was either him or Ferguson Jenkins. I can't remember. Or both. But yeah, they're in the Hall of Fame. Pete's not. Bullshit. So speaking of people doing time, let's talk about Jamarcus.
So for those of you who don't know, and this story came out, who came out earlier today, from ESPN, quote, former number one draft pick Jamarcus Russell was fired as a volunteer assistant coach at his alma mater, Williamson High School in Mobile, Alabama, and is facing a lawsuit accusing him of taking a $74,000 check meant as a donation to the school. The school allegedly never received the check, and Russell reportedly deposited it in a credit union and promptly withdrew $55,000 worth of it.
I wonder who he owed that money to. Checkers, Jack in the Box,
Grubhub, DoorDash,
Zaxby's.
Shut up.
All kidding aside, I mean, he scammed Al Davis out of so much money. How did he run out?
Yeah, but that was also when everybody was scamming Al Davis out of money, with the exception of maybe Sebastian Janikowski back then.
Who earned his money.
Right.
I will say this. It would be one of the stupider ways someone goes to jail. You're an unpaid assistant, and you get handed a check for $74,000 and think it's yours. Jamarcus, you're not supposed to drink the Bayou water.
Airboat.
like Burt Reynolds and Gator. Oh my God. I saw a meme on Facebook. It was a thing about a watch, and it said strap on time, and you see Archer at the bottom. Phrasing.
For years, I actually would just have a photo of him, and it just said phrasing across the bottom, just slapped up in my office.
Is phrasing not a thing anymore?
Not on this show.
Never has been on this show. Well, when we used to do it on my page,
Yeah.
it was. But so speaking of YouTube, let's do the last thing in the blast, and that is the Sunday Ticket lawsuit. The NFL got fucking hammered.
And that's not including what's coming down the pipe now with controversy. This is stemming from between 2011 and 2022, where the lawsuit covers 2.4 million residential subscribers and 48,000 businesses. And a jury in a U.S. District Court jury awarded $4.7 billion in residential damages and $96 million in damages to the commercial class.
It's like $6,000 a person.
Yeah, for because the NFL violated an antitrust, according to this.
Well, obviously, this is going to go to appeal.
Yeah.
The NFL's not going to. They don't part with money to their players. They're certainly not going to part with money to everybody else.
It's calculated that should the NFL end up paying the entire amount, it would cost each team $449.6 million.
Well, look, I mean, here's the thing. Years ago, when I was riding public transit to and from work, I spent $19.99 a year on the MLB one, so I could listen to the Mets. I spent $14.99 for the year for the radio on the NBA one, so I could listen to John Mike and Jim Jones do the Cavs games. That's how long ago that was. And I went to listen to the Browns. And it was $80 for the radio. The NFL, to quote the great Kathy Bates, the chickens are coming home to roost, Bobby Boucher. The NFL is going to lose some money.
First of all, they can afford to do it.
They can afford to do it with all the money that their indentured servant, their own, I'm going to say it, their own personal Haktua girl, ESPN. No.
What in the wide world of sports is going on here?
Not even so much that, because we talked about it. The other girl in the video is the Smoke Show.
Oh, absolutely. But I'm not wrong about ESPN, am I?
No, speaking of ESPN, one thing we actually forgot to mention, and it just happened yesterday. Congratulations and c'est la vie to John Anderson after 25 years on SportsCenter.
25 years on SportsCenter and maybe the greatest game show commentary in history.
Wipeout.
On Wipeout. No one talked about big red balls quite like John Anderson. And listen, he was my second favorite guy to do SportsCenter with Stewart. I'm sorry, he was third. Rich, of course, is the first one you think of. SVP was the next one, and of course, John third. Speaking of that, just off Anderson, did you see?
So this isn't normal?
I'm not happy with my effort. Did you see what he did on his show the other night?
SVP?
Yeah.
Yes.
That hit me. I can't believe it's been 10 years.
And that's why I love SVP, and just, they've got the Bristol show, they've got the LA, and the fact that they can have SVP anchor in DC by himself, and it's probably the best sports highlight show that there is right now. And that's just a testament to how good SVP is. And he's coming out of that John Anderson learning tree at that point. Not
He is.
learning tree, but the
Linda Cohn is still the GOAT personally, but that's just me. I will say this, John Anderson will be missed. Because again, we were talking about our favorite broadcasters several weeks ago. We're coming to the end with Howie, and who knows how much longer Gary, Keith, and Ron have. We're looking at Tom Hamilton that way.
Jim Donovan,
Jim Donovan. Although I think Jimmy just elongated his career by not doing the NBC4 stuff anyway, and just focusing on the Browns. But Jim, none of our childhood Sports Center anchors are there anymore, really.
Yeah.
Greenberg, and let me say this, doing Sports Center. No Boomer, no Tom Mees, no Mike Tirico, no Stewart, no Dan and Keith, now no John Anderson.
Bill
Kenny
Pito,
Mayne left,
yeah.
no Bill Pito, no Kenny Mayne.
Jack Edwards left, was a hack for the Bruins for 20 years, and now he's cleaning it up.
I mean, time passes, things change. I get it. I happen to enjoy the two guys they have doing the Mets booth on the road, because Howie doesn't do the road trips other than the really big ones. But it's getting to the point where we're watching these people who don't know what they're doing, being honest. When Linda Cohn does a Sports Center, I will turn it on. Outside of that, no.
And I actually saw the video package that they put together for JA when he signed off last night. I saw it on YouTube at about 2:00 this morning, and I didn't even recognize Linda Cohn anymore.
Yeah, you figure early 90s.
Well,
she was in that
longer. She doesn't color it anymore.
No, but you got to figure the early 90s. She was in that group that started ESPN2.
Yeah.
With Stu and Olbermann and those ugly jackets. I can't believe Stu's been gone 10 years.
Yeah.
Well, it'll be 10 years this January. We figure it's been almost 30 for Jimmy V, or over 30 for Jimmy V. Did you see about Dickie?
Yeah, I didn't want to say it. Just not even a week after being cancer-free, now it's actually back somewhere else.
Yeah. Don't worry, I didn't realize he called the first college basketball game on ESPN. I didn't realize that. Figure I'm 9 months older than the network. Oh, how the mighty have fallen.
Yeah.
Because we will be previewing college football in several weeks, and they won't touch 95% of it. So, yeah, the NFL is going to pay big. But,
Michael?
James?
Is it time to tune up the band?
I believe it is.
Would you shut up and just push the button already?
No, God! No! God, please, no! 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 No!
It's the YZ Translator on the Wise Guys Sports Show.
I'm forever unclean.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, the dulcet tones of half of the worst presidential debate in history can only mean one thing, and that is it is time for the YZ Translator, the best segment of the night, because it is the last segment of the night. As Jim and I give each other names in and out of the sports world, and the first thing that pops into our heads is exactly what we will tell you We have ranged everything from Kyrie Irving being a sing-song douche canoe, which again is still my favorite. Brett Favre being compared to Boss Hogg. Joel Embiid being told that he is nothing but a walking insurance claim. What did Patrick say? No, you were Wembanyama. Victor Wembanyama being blown over in a windstorm in Chicago. Alex calling Dwayne Johnson a shitty actor. I mean, we've had a very large spectrum. Although Willie calling both Josh McDaniels and who was the old Texas A&M coach? Jimbo Fisher. The Hamburglar is now quickly climbing up the ranks with me. So as always, recently Jim has put together a chyron for tonight's translator. James, if you would reveal said chyron, please.
I'm hoping you saw this.
I did see that. The caption of the video said, "Only at a Met Yankee game can you see someone being arrested in the background." Hoping I saw it. They were on both nights. They were on TBS both nights. I got to watch both games, and they were wonderful because they beat the fuck out of them. So, as is custom, I give the first one to my co-host, and James, I am going to lob you a softball. And your first name in the Wisey Translator is Los Angeles Lakers GM Rob Pelinka.
Don't you mean assistant to the district manager of the general manager?
He really is the Michael Scott of the NBA, isn't he?
He's more the Dwight Schrute of the NBA.
Does that make JJ John Krasinski?
Who's going to be pulling all the pranks? Because obviously, whoever's ear about drafting LeBron Jr. is Jim.
Jury's out on him.
Us, Pam.
Oh God, no. No. What was Michael Scott's wife's name at the end?
I don't know. I didn't watch that far.
Who was the creepy chick Dwight married? That's who Jeannie Buss is. That makes Anthony Davis the guy who drops the chili on the floor. I never watched The Office.
So that makes Jeannie Buss. Where is she? Angela. Kevin is Anthony Davis. This is going to be fun, like trying to figure out who actually fits all this.
Phil Jackson's Ricky Gervais.
I think Phil Jackson would be more Andy Bernard. Tuna.
Nice. What you got for me, dude?
Michael, your first name in the Wisey Translator tonight, he's on the move. And this is going to be a fun one. Bol Bol.
Do you think that's where the guy who named all his kids Obu on fucking Family Feud got the idea from?
Who probably got the idea from George Foreman.
And the immortal words of George Foreman to John Sally, you get hit in the face by Muhammad Ali, see how many names you can think of. Where's he going?
I want to say he's going to Phoenix. like back to
Um,
Phoenix.
You know what? I like his skill set.
Yeah, they're the Suns are bringing back Royce O'Neal and Bol Bol.
He's also the only person who can play face up on Wemby and not lose 8 feet.
You know what would be highly entertaining for All-Star Weekend? Wemby and Bol Bol have to get off the plane, and they have to run on that escalator going the opposite direction to see who stays upright to be able to get the Uber to get to the arena.
What would be funnier is if you put them both out in Chicago by the lake and see which one goes over first. I would live react to it. The look on your face says you want this to happen.
No. While we've got Chestnut and Kobayashi on Labor Day, Bol Bol against Wembanyama in the same contest to actually see if they can make it past 5 before they just sink like a sack of hammers because it's half their body weight.
If I go where I want to go right now, we're never going to be allowed on YouTube again, so we need to just move on. James, your second and final name in the YZ translator is, well, I have to do this because I want to hear your honest opinion of the guy. Stephen Vogt.
He is right now the odds-on favorite to win American League Manager of the Year. And you can say anything that you want about Baltimore, Seattle, New York. For a team that was in third place last year with Francona and brought back most of the roster and has got the second best record in all of baseball and possibly could have the best record in all of baseball mathematically by the time the All-Star game is here in 2 weeks. I know we don't hand out midseason awards, but he's already got the postseason award in my book.
I agree. I would vote for him for Manager of the Year in the American League.
No
The
pun
only
intended.
caveat. How what?
No pun intended. You said
Yeah.
you said you wouldn't vote for him.
I would. The only.
So you're going to vote for vote. So you're stuffing the ballot box. So you're
I am
committing
in Georgia.
So you're committing voter fraud. So you're only 33 felony convictions behind.
It's only a misdemeanor if it's Manager of the Year that I'm doing it for.
Okay. I'll allow
Cool.
it.
Yeah, me too. No, the only person in the American League I would vote for besides him is if Kansas City continues on, or if either Kansas City continues on this trek and makes a run, or if Boston does for Alex Cora, because Boston was not expected to do these things. Neither was Kansas City. So Stephen Vogt's got my yes in the ballot box, unless those two teams really do make a deep run where they're in this thing to the end. Because let's be honest, their rosters are not nearly as talented as the Guardians roster.
And I'm not saying this is going to be something where Vogt, basically being one of, if not the youngest manager in baseball, that he's going to have a 20, 25-year career. He's not going to be the next Bobby Cox or Joe Torre or anything, coming in young and staying with this franchise. But teams were right to give him a look, and how great was it of Chris Antonetti to get him to be the first one to offer him the contract?
Antonetti is a very smart baseball mind, and unfortunately, he has to be because he's got two people who can't take the handcuffs off the purse in the owner's box. I won't start about the Dolans. They're my favorites to pick on. Why is it the Cleveland owners that I pick on mercilessly? One for not spending money and the other for spending it fucking stupidly.
I mean, at least 2 out of 3. The only one who actually gets it right is the only one who's actually had postseason success in our lifetime.
Yeah, and even he has had his missteps. But he has figured it out. I don't think the Dolans are going to figure it out. And we all know that Jimmy's stir crazy stupid.
Michael, your final name in the YZ Translator this evening, Kevin Love.
Come home, big fella. Come home. And I don't mean Minnesota. I don't mean Portland. I don't mean UC. I don't mean LA. Come home to the land. Take your victory lap in the place you had the most success of your entire career and hang them up.
He will. He'll be in street clothes. His name will go up in the rafters because he can't hardly walk half the time.
Yeah. Now, I will say this.
Well, if he really wanted to be home, you actually talk about putting a banner up there. Can we just put like a little dot off in the corner with his number on it?
Why do you got to be a dick? Seriously? Why?
Tell me I'm lying.
This isn't about lying, James. This is about why do you got to be a dick? Listen, 0 better be up there before Kyrie's number.
Oh, Kyrie's never going to get his number up there at this point.
No, I don't think so either. We know the day after he decides to hang him up, 23 is going up there. But I honestly feel that 0 has to go up there. You can't not, because not only was he one of the bigger cogs in that championship run, he chose to stay. He knew it was going to be a rebuild. He wanted to be a part of the rebuild. That, in my book, that's why I wanted to come back, Jim. That's why I wanted to finish his career in Cleveland. Because when everybody else ran the fuck out, he stayed. And he played hard, and he tried to win, and he tried to do all these things and teach these young kids when everybody else was trying to fuck us, including the front office.
If he doesn't come back to Cleveland,
go back to Minnesota.
I could see that, but Minnesota's so loaded. I don't know if they got a roster spot for him.
They don't.
You know what I'd like to see him do? Pair back up with Sexton and Markkanen and play a year out in Utah. They're still in rebuild. They could use some of that veteran leadership.
They could. And to see him with Sexton, who was the first piece after LeBron left, would be nice to see. Because, again, I'm the nostalgic one. But for my own selfishness, I want him in Cleveland. I want him to finish his career as a Cavalier. I want that 0 to be on his back. And I want at the end of the 82nd game or whatever game is the final home game, I want them to give him a proper send-off. That's just me. It's just, again, big softy. You know, there are certain games of the year I don't miss. Ohio State, Penn State's one of them. Well, in 2018, that was David Wright's final game. So, I didn't watch a single minute of that game. I had David Wright in front of me. I was crying like a baby, but I had David Wright on. He needs that send-off from the place that he spent most of his career. I mean, think about it. He was here, 8
years.
He was here 8 years. And if he's in year 15, that means he's had 7 years between Minnesota and everywhere else. So he needs to come home. Just like I think Tristan should come back when he gets into his final year. If it's next year, the year after, play it in Cleveland. Take that bow. You deserve it. Yeah, Kyrie should stay far away
this year, so he got his runoff. So Tristan adios. We'll see you when we celebrate, the 10th anniversary, in 2 years.
which is scarily coming up quick. But yeah, that's the one. Thank you for giving me that, because I feel like I needed to say that. I know I said it before, but that's where I want him. Two other quick things before we go off. One, Paul George, where do you think? All right, hold on. Where do you think, and which option scares you the most?
Where do I think? I don't know. How does Shady Pines match up?
Shady Pines, ma.
And which one scares me the most? I don't know. Who did Will Ferrell suit up for?
Where I think he'll land is Philly. What scares me the most is Orlando.
I don't think any of these big name past their prime free agents that are commanding 30 mil a year or opting out should go anywhere near Orlando. I think Orlando's on the right track just the way that they are now.
I agree, but again, if you bring him in and he understands it's Paolo's team and he wants to be a piece, that's scary. Scarier than that, are we on our way to a Tyrese Halliburton, Jalen Brunson SummerSlam match? Did you see that at all?
I did. They will never let that happen, especially in Cleveland.
I know. Just that was funny.
Did you actually see what happened on SmackDown last night?
I saw Paul Heyman got taken out on a stretcher.
Because he got
And then I saw
a table.
And then I saw Cody and Kevin Owens and Randy Orton come out and beat the hell out of all three of them, or all four of them. I saw Kevin Owens do a moonsault onto a dude on a table. Was that Jacob Fatu he got?
Yes.
Yeah, I saw Randy Orton beat the piss out of somebody.
I know we throw the term beast around a lot.
He's a monster.
Jacob Fatu, they call him a werewolf. He lives up to that. I think he might be the most athletically gifted of the entire family.
Mm-hmm. They are setting up war games, though. Especially now with, again, the NOI family lost Roman's father recently. They're setting up war games. They are. And scarily, I would not be shocked if one 5-man team is Roman Reigns, CM Punk, Cody, Randy, and Kevin against Solo and those boys and somebody else.
I think we're going to see Bloodline versus Bloodline.
You think The Rock comes back for that?
I think The Rock would come back for that. I also think because there's still one more Fatu brother that would still come in. And
we got Jimmy and Jay too.
We now live in a world where overnight Roman and Paul have become baby faces.
Triple H is a genius.
I mean, you know me, going as far back as I have, even back to 94, I've always been a Paul Heyman guy.
Yes, you have been.
I just I've never been able to get on board with Roman Reigns.
Me neither.
Because it just now means now we're set up for what? Another 2 to 3 years of this stupid family?
Well, no, I don't think it's going to be that long, because you figure if they do war games, Bloodline against Bloodline, it's going to be Jimmy and Jay are going to get back together now that which one just got cleared to come back?
Jay.
Whatever. Which one is the Yeet guy?
Jimmy.
Okay, so Jay just got cleared to come back then. It's going to be those two. It's going to be Roman. It's going to be Rock. Who the fifth guy is? Sami Zayn. I would say Sami Zayn will probably be that guy. You could see CM Punk because of the connection to Paul Heyman.
No, you're going to see CM Punk with the finally get this thing with Drew McIntyre out of the way.
Oh, that's true. That's true. Do we see a Damian Priest, Cody Rhodes title for title?
I don't know if they're going to do a unification. And you're not going to put a non-title bout, on your biggest show of the summer.
No. Oh, and by the way, on Netflix, I hope the first night they say Seth fucking Rollins, not Seth freaking Rollins.
Yeah, they're going to have to.
Yeah, it's all over TikTok.
There is a very slim part of me that wants to order AEW Forbidden Door tomorrow night because that's the New Japan crossover.
Ooh.
Which has been very good the last couple of years, but it's Ospreay versus Swerve for the world title tomorrow night. Can we say, the word dream match gets thrown out a bunch, but those might be two of the top 5 best workers in the business on the planet right now.
Who's MJF fighting?
I don't remember. I want to say it might be Daniel Garcia.
Okay. Will Ospreay? Ospreay hasn't been there long.
He's been with them. He was with them for a cup of coffee last year, but he was finishing up New Japan duties.
Okay.
Was officially signed with them. Now he's been AEW primarily since February. And I think he's got 1 loss on his record, but
That's an early title shot too.
yeah, it's I understand that they're strapping a rocket ship up his ass and sending Will Ospreay to the moon, but Will Ospreay is that damn good.
From what you and Alex have said, I have not partaken a lot of AEW, mostly YouTube clips, but from what you and Alex have said, he's the real deal. So Jim, we got next week and then hiatus, right?
Yep. Next week will be our final show for the next couple of weeks.
Next week we've got another
engagement.
We got another big episode too, because you figure we got to break down the All-Star break. We're gonna preview not only the All-Star game because the teams will be announced the following weekend, but we'll have an idea of who the starters are going to be. But also we got the home run derby coming up. We have free agency in the NBA. We have free agency in the NHL. We have free agency and we have camps opening up. As crazy as we used to get, we are been very, very content heavy this year. I love it. Next week, not
also. I think also, don't we actually have? We got Wimbledon starting this week.
Wimbledon starting this week, and I believe the British Open starts soon too.
Correct. I think that's going to occur while we're on hiatus.
Yep, and then when we get back, we're diving head first because it'll be right around August 1st, and we have college football by the end of the month. And the 12-team playoff era will officially begin the final Saturday of August when we get the first games of the year. Dude, this thing, we are steamrolling to 100. So, hey, another good show. And I meant to say that last week, too, before we got off. Good show, dude.
We always say we want to shorten it, but we went really content heavy the last couple of weeks.
We did. And here's the thing. The piece that got us to go as long as it did in the hat trick, there was not any kind of fluff or BS during it. We were literally going back and forth. I got no problem with that. Besides, he didn't nap today, and you saw the picture. He was done.
Yep.
and even better, I got to eat my ice cream. Again, Big Rican isn't just a name. It's a lifestyle.
I got to go yogurt shopping tomorrow, and that's really the only time I'm going to leave the apartment. It's just going to be Warframe and Hallmark all afternoon.
Listen to this deal we got today. Bobby likes the Oikos. 000, 97 cents a container.
See, I can't get into those. I don't like the Greek one.
See the Greek yogurt, I put it in the oats sometimes, and it just makes it creamy. Here's something for the lactose intolerant people. Tomorrow's pizza will feature the Philly cream cheese loaded mozzarella cheese for the pizza.
There is a new place. Maybe I do this on the way home tomorrow. There's a new place that opened up, and I don't know if they're national like some of the other chains, but they're called Tropical Smoothie Cafe. And I got a Chipotle chicken flatbread and a triple chicken quesadilla. Mwah. I will put it up against Taco Bell for how good this food was, and it was very, very healthy.
What's the other smoothie joint we were
Smoothie.
talking about? Smoothie King. Okay, so we have them down here. We're door dashing. We had to stop and pick up a couple to drop off to somebody. I walk in and I found what I'm going to try. Now, mind you, it's $11 for the big one, which is insanity. But froyo, peanut butter protein powder, cocoa powder, espresso.
Yeah.
Or as I like to call it, liquid crack.
Every time I go there, I get the same thing. I get their banana berry tree, which I want to say is pineapple, strawberry, and papaya.
You lost me at pineapple.
Strawberry, banana, and papaya, and I want to say there's like a hint of pineapple juice in it. But the one that I got the other day, it was strawberry, banana, white chocolate, and coconut milk.
See, the coconut milk, I'm not the fondest of.
I can't eat the coconut flesh, but sometimes I like the milk.
I can do it if it's in something. So I could probably do it there. Hold on. I'll tell you exactly what. Where is it?
Because we all know, coconut milk does and almond milk does not belong on my shelf next to my regular milk, according to Lewis Black, because it's making my regular milk feel bad about itself.
I have almond milk. I use that in the oats just because it would get really ugly if I didn't. Where is it? I know I took a picture of it. Or did I just take it in there? But yeah, I got to tell you what's in this because this is just great. Search images. There it is. So this is the Feel Energized, the Mocha Yogurt Delight. I'm sorry, there's no peanut butter in it. Vanilla frozen yogurt, 100% cocoa, non-fat milk, dairy whey blend, and turbinado.
This one I may actually try tomorrow. It's a summer thing. Watermelon, mint, strawberries, and lime. It's a watermelon mojito smoothie.
Ooh. But the question is, James, is there rum?
Not in a smoothie cafe.
In the cabinet to be added.
I mean, I want to say a couple of blocks up, there's a CVS that has like the non-alcoholic spirits. If I just wanted the flavor.
I'd throw some Bacardi Silver in that so fast your head would spin. So we will see you guys next week. Same bat time, same bat channel. 9 p.m. here on the Wise Guys YouTube channel. Jim, have a good week. I'll talk to you probably tomorrow.
Yeah, we'll talk sometime tomorrow. So yeah, same batshit, bros, same batshit topics.
Same batshit crazy.
Good night, everybody.
Good night, everybody.